Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for another very special edition of WOWSA Live with our host, Ned Denison. Ned?
Hello, everyone. I'm the chairperson of the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame. We're interviewing honoree Ricardo Ratto from Brazil. He also serves on the executive committee of the Hall of Fame. Ricardo, please say hello to everyone.
Hi, hello, everybody. Thanks for the invitation to the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame. It's a big pleasure to share with you a little of my history and how could I do to contribute to the development of open water swimming in Brazil, South America, and perhaps worldwide.
Let me give everybody a brief highlight of Ricardo's open water career. He's probably one of the most organized open water swimming organizers, officials, coaches, and managers in South America. As an organizer, he sets the courses, the safety programs for some of the largest swims in the world, including one in Copacabana Beach, which will have more than 4,000 swimmers. He coordinated open water swimming for the Brazilian Swimming Federation from 1995 to 2006, and has another job since then, which we'll talk about later. He's also been a FINA open water certified official since 1999. He's worked many events, including the London Olympics. And then finally, a long time ago, Ricardo actually swam a marathon himself, a 15K swim in Brazil. So Ricardo, talk to us about your early days as a swimmer up to your one marathon swim.
Okay, I started swimming in a swimming program in my city town. And it's the biggest pool here in Niterói, where I live. And by that time, there was swimming lessons, free swimming lessons for the community. And I had the opportunity later to be the coordinator and later the director of this program when I graduated in physical education. So after that, I started playing water polo when I was 13 years old. And here in my city, surfing is a very famous sport. Everybody is related to surf. And with me, it could not be different. So I started surfing when I was 12 years old, besides playing water polo, where I was not taking part in surfing competitions, contests, but I was taking part in swimming competitions. I used it to swim freestyle and butterfly. 50, 100 meters and 100 meters were my best results in the pool. I had a 56 in 100 meters, and I had a 24, 25, very low, 25 something, 20, something like that, and a 50 meters butterfly. After that, as I was very engaged in surfing, I got a lot of experience related to the sea. So there was no technology as now to forecast the conditions for surfing the next day. So we had to keep on looking to the sky and observing the format of the clouds and how the winds are blowing and the conditions of the currents and so forth. So this gave me a handicap to start working with the planning of open water swimming. So some companies here in my city that was hired by Brazilian Swimming Federation, like WOWSA, they hired me to organize this part of safety and the forecast of the conditions, the best date to host the competition. So I decided to contribute with them. I didn't make money by that time, just contributing. And at the first opportunity, they gave me a hole to be on a boat outside the shore, very long, very far away from the beach. It was a 25K race and a race that was picking the Brazilian swimmers to take part in an international competition, a FINA competition in Australia. I think that it was in 1994. And then after that, during this whole period, I was involved in some competitions in open water swimming as a swimmer, but no longer than 3K. I was in a vacation and went driving my own car with 3 other colleagues to the north of Brazil. And at our first step, there was a ferry boat crossing to the other side of a river. There was a delta. And then I was inside the ferry by my car and talking to my friends. And I said, it's quite easy to go swimming to the other side. And the boat driver heard and told me, oh, I made a lot of money doing some gambling with people from São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. I'm sure you are not able. And we decided to put some money and make a bet. And he saw that I was very confident in myself. So he decided to only to do the bet if I was able to swim 3 times, to cross 3 times. And the streams are very, very strong. And we put a lot of money in this bet. So after that, I was able to do, but I had to swim to an island in the middle of the delta because of the current. The tide was flowing out to the sea. So it was very hard. I spent almost 3 hours, 2 hours and 50 minutes to swim 4 times, because when he realized that he lost, he didn't want to give me a hike back to the shore, you know? So I had to swim back. But the most important is that I swam and I made a lot of money, and it was a birthday of one of my colleagues. So when I reached the beach, I closed the bar and paid fish and fries and beer for everybody. So this is my 1 marathon swim, you know.
You never want to negotiate with the boatman when you're in the water, Ricardo. It's a bad move. You're in a bad position. Ricardo, you've had literally 3 careers. You've had coaching, organizing, and officiating. So I want to take them in order. Tell us about your coaching career first.
Yes, my coaching career started as a coaching an age group swimmers. At the first club I was hired in Clube de Regatas Icaraí, here in Niterói. And I was a water polo coach because I was a water polo player and had a good expertise in that discipline. But they perceived that I should be helpful with age group swimmers as well. So I decided to contribute with them. And by that time, the age group swimming teams are quite big here in my city. We had more than 200 kids swimming in that program. So we had several coaches because it should be almost impossible to coach 200 swimmers at the same time. So we have a kind of 4 coaches, something like that. And then I started to coach water polo and swimming. Then some swimmers asked me to coach them, to take part in some, they are running to a spot to work as a lifeguard. So I decided to coach people to be a lifeguard. And some of these swimmers are nowadays are working in California and in Hawaii. They turn themselves in very, very good lifesavers to work in the sea. And I contributed to a military organization that is Corpo de Bombeiros from Rio de Janeiro. And Corpo de Bombeiros from Rio de Janeiro are in charge of the lifeguards in all the beaches in all our states, Rio de Janeiro state. So after that, some swimmers asked me to coach them to swim some races, open water races. And then I could coach some swimmers from Brazil, Argentina. In Argentina, I coached Vanessa Garcia, that was taking part is taking part until nowadays in FINA Grand Prix World Series. And Mariana Melo as well from Brazil. I had the opportunity to coach her for 2 seasons. And I was sending some swimming plans for coaching swimmers from Europe and from Australia as well. So that was my career as a coach. And nowadays I'm coaching because I'm coaching swimmers that take part in high level swimming in pool competitions. And I have always swimmers taking part in open water swimming competitions as well, as I'm gonna do in 2 weeks. I'm in December 20. I will be in São Paulo coaching a swimmer. He is going to swim the Brazilian Open Water Swimming Championships, the 5K series, and I will be coaching him at this race, and I'm in charge of his preparation.
Your second career is as an organizer. So at the very least, tell us about managing 4,000 swimmers in an event. I think many of us are used to events with 50 swimmers or maybe 400 swimmers, but I can't even imagine 4,000 swimmers. And then finally, you're also the open water swim director in Brazil for the last couple of years. Tell us about that as well. So how do you manage 4,000 swimmers?
It's a little crazy, né? That's what happened, because at the beginning, actually, it was not 4,000, it was 5,000. At the first Travessia do Esporte, we had 5,000 swimmers in a single start. So what could I do to provide safety for those 5,000 swimmers? It's a good question. So the first step was to set the course almost as a straight line from the beginning to the end of the race. That was the first step. Because if you have a turn buoy 400 or even a kilometer away from the beach, should be very, very hard. So I decided to make the course with just a small turn, almost maybe 140 degrees, very, very, almost straight with the left shoulder. But people, according to the pack of the people, a lot of swimmers together, so people passed away from the buoy because the crowd was so big. And we had to provide safety, putting scuba divers inside the water, helicopters. So we had a lot of money because TV Globo was broadcasting live the event to the most famous sports program here in Brazil, that is Esporte Espetacular. And about 100 million people watching a live open water swimming in a Sunday morning, 10 a.m. in the morning on the
100
TV.
million people are watching open water swimming.
Yeah.
100 million.
Yeah, that's crazy. So
I was once watched by 12 people.
So we had no problem with this event. The only problem that we had is it's a funny story, because it's a cannon shot that started the race, because it was a military race. Fortes here in Brazil, it's like a military facility, and Forte in Brazil is also strong. So it's a combination, a meaning of this word. So Travessia dos Fortes, because it was from a fortress to another fortress, as well as forte in Portuguese means strong. So it was a cannon shot, but the swimmers were not advised about that. And when the cannon made the shot, oh, everybody dove in the water, scared. So it was very, very funny. We had no problem. Thanks God.
5,000 people start and 50 water polo players come out.
And after that, we decided to decrease this number for safety reasons, because we are very very lucky people for don't have any kind of problem by that time of 5,000 start, single start. So we decided to decrease to the half. So it was 2,500 in a single start as well. So I made the same equipment with scuba divers, helicopters, boats inside the water that had almost a small hospital inside the boat. These boats were able to provide a medical assistance and any kind of incident that should have related to the competition. And we have a nice structure on land to remove the ones that could not be attended by the medical boat inside the water. So everything went fine. Of course, we had some incidents, and the worst one was when a military swimmer from Paraná, Brazil, he was a major from Brazilian Army, and he decided to swim wearing his wetsuit, and he died during the race. So I was always taking care of.
Was he too hot?
Too hot. He has passed due to hyperthermia, you know. And after that, we decided not to allow any people to swim with wetsuits when the water was higher than 24 degrees Celsius. So this was the worst part as an organizer, is to lose a swimmer. To lose a swimmer is very, very, very hard. And I almost quit, you know, after that incident. I almost quit, but people told me that it was not my fault. I knew about that, but we are there to promote health, to promote the development of the sport, and to lose a swimmer is very, very bad.
Talk to us about your refereeing career. I'm interested in, you know, what was your biggest event, your best event? What was the greatest swim you witnessed?
Okay, of course, I was at the Olympics in London, as well as I was in the Pan American Games here in Rio de Janeiro in 2007, where I had the opportunity to work as a race director at the beginning, and then I passed it to someone else, and I was asked to serve as the chief referee for the women's race, and I was the referee in charge to officiate the first Brazilian medal with Poliana Okimoto when she won the silver medal, and the gold medal was for a girl from the United States. Steve Monantonis could remember me her name. I was with her name in my head a couple of minutes ago, but
Haley, Erica?
Eva Fabian.
No, not
No?
even Fabian. No,
Not even, okay.
I will remember in a couple minutes.
Okay.
And Poliana and her was tight, but at the moment of to touch the finish wall, a wave came, and Poliana was going to touch the finish gate, went over her head, and when it went down, the American girl touched first. So everybody was saying that Poliana won the race, and I said no, the winner is the American girl, and I was a Brazilian, so everybody was against me. Can you believe? Everybody, no, it's Poliana won. No, Poliana didn't won. The American girl, she won, and we went to the video, and they could confirm that the American girl touched first. So it was a big event for me here in my hometown in Copacabana Beach, Rio de Janeiro, and it was previous to the Olympics because the Pan American Games was a kind of preparation to the Olympics in Rio. And after that, I went to the Olympics in London. But prior to the Olympics, I had a situation in Seville 2008. It was the first qualifying event to the first ever open water swimming race in an Olympic Games, the marathon swimming. It was a qualifying in Seville. And I was one of the referees. I think I was working with the chief referee, but the chief referee asked me to be in charge of the final of the race. And there was an Australian swimmer, Grant Hackett. And I think that this is the worst part for a referee, to DQ, to disqualify a swimmer, especially a swimmer in like Grant Hackett. So at the end of the race, he was, the press people were saying that he was one of the favorites to win the race, but he didn't. And when he realized that the group of the swimmers, the pack started to speed up, and he could not follow the group, he got crazy. So he started to swim, trying to draft everybody and touch everybody, and he disturbed several swimmers. And at the final leg, Sid Cassidy came to me, "Don't you see that? You have to take a providence." And I asked him to go away because he was disturbing my work. So at the end of the race, I gave the red flag straight because I decided not to give the red flag at the final leg, because to do that, I would disturb the whole pack of the swimmers. And there were Olympic spots, okay, being disputed. So I think that I took the right decision. And later, Fina said that I did right, not to give the red flag at the final leg of the race. But
This is interesting because Grant Hackett was what, 3 times gold medal in 1500 or something like that. He was the world's greatest 1500 meter swimmer for at least a decade. Went to the open water, and the conventional wisdom was he'll win. And sometimes the 1500 meters swimmers go to this 10K and they do very well, and other times it isn't for them. Maybe the wrong time in his career, who knows?
Yes, and during the Olympics, it was fantastic because here in Brazil, the biggest sport is football or soccer, how you would like to call. But I remember when I was a child and I went to a meeting in Maracanã Stadium, and there was, by that time, 200,000 people inside the stadium. Can you imagine 200,000 people together in a single stadium? That's what we had by that time. And I can remember the crowd screaming, "Wow!" After that, Maracanã Stadium was reduced according to FIFA rules, and it's not possible nowadays anymore to put more than 60 or 70,000 people together in a single stadium for safety reasons. But when I went to Hyde Park, to the Olympics, and as they announced the name of the swimmers, and when they announced the British swimmers, the crowd, I got like this, my hair is, it was amazing. It was, in my opinion, was the most fantastic sound I have heard in my whole career in open water swimming. To hear about, I don't know how many people were there, but a million people should be there. 5, I don't know. We should look for that information. But it was that screaming sounded me like Maracanã in the old times, So in my sport, open water swimming, to hear something like soccer in Brazil was amazing.
Tell us about the Rio Games, the excitement, the drama of the conditions in Copacabana Harbor. How did it energize the people? And then finally, a medal for Pollyanna.
Well, starting the story, at the beginning, I was one of the involved in organizing and planning that event. At one of the first meetings in our national federation, I told Coraci Nunes that the equipment they were trying to hire to set up the course in Copacabana Beach was not suitable to that kind of beach. As I heard that Rio de Janeiro should host the Olympic competition for open water swimming, I decided to make statistics. And at the same period of the Olympic Games, I went to the beach with all my equipment and wrote down the conditions and so forth. And I observed that by that period, always we had rough seas, always, always, always. As it had happened in the Pan American Games in 2007. We had rough sea that turned it impossible during the Pan American Games to set up the finish gate. So we had to improve a lot of things. We had to change the planning and so forth. And it was not different in the Olympic Games. So as Brazilian Swimming Federation was driving the planning to a wrong direction, I decided to quit. I decided not to take part because I knew that it should be a big problem. As at the end of the story, everybody knows it was a big nightmare because 2 days prior to the competition, a big swell came and destroyed everything they had set up to the Olympic Games in Copacabana Beach. They had to hire big boats to pull out to the sea, big platforms that are used in the year's party at the end of the year. We had a Réveillon party at Copacabana Beach, and they hired the same kind of boats to put the feeding stations. And these platforms, iron platforms, are used to put the fireworks. So it's high from the water level. A lot of things that I didn't agree. So I decided to quit. And at the day of the competition, I went to the beach, of course, to watch the race. And a Brazilian TV, SBT, the biggest Brazilian broadcast TV after Globo, and they hired me to be the commentator for the open water race. So it was a very interesting hole that I found at the last moment because I was not involved at all in even in officiating or organizing or anything like that. But I had the honor and the opportunity to host in my home friends like Dennis Miller, vice president of FINA, that passed away 1 year ago. And I had the opportunity to host the whole family of Bill Ford from Australia. And we had wonderful time here in Rio. I met several other colleagues from open water swimming world, Ruben Carvajal and officials from Brazil. It was a big party, and everybody was commentating after the race about the Poliana medal. They asked me to analyze how that medal went to Poliana due to the disqualification of Orly Miller. And I said that the officiating body took the right decision because the rules are clear and they did the right decision. And Poliana was the bronze medal for the happiness of the Brazilian open water community in Brazil.
And then a final question for you. Talk about Brazil today. We watch in the media that COVID has not been kind to Brazil. You are now together with Poliana organizing a swim series. Tell us about that series and the challenges in the time of Corona.
Yeah, we have a big challenge now with coronavirus. And I think that until we don't have a vaccine, we won't succeed doing any big event. That's the truth. That's why Poliana decided to cancel all the events she had already established for this year. We should have an event in Guarujá, another one in Bertioga, in São Sebastião, and another one in Rio de Janeiro. So we decided to postpone first, then we decided to cancel. And now their company, it's a VEG Sports, is the company that asked Poliana to organize the event. I'm the race director, so they take all the decisions upon my thoughts, and I tell them the best date according to the sea tide, the tide table, and the moon, and the best period that we know that we have calm seas, and I established the rules of the competition. And we have FINA rules plus some rules specifically to the races, to each race. So we have different rules for each race. And we know that without a vaccine, it will be impossible to host a competition with the importance it must have to have the name of Poliana Okimoto Circuit. And we are confident that next year we're going to have conditions to do that, because we believe that the vaccine will be available for Brazilian people. And the press people is saying that everybody who try to organize an event, any kind of events, even soccer event, when we have the soccer competition, the soccer championships here in Brazil, are taking place with empty stadiums. So the clubs are mad about that because they make a lot of money with tickets. So it's very hard. And our president as well is not contributing with a good behavior. And in the past month ago, some months ago, a Brazilian volleyball player went to the podium after an important match, and she's a professional. And Brazilian volleyball maybe is one of the best in the world. And the competition was being broadcasted worldwide. And she went to the TV and said, "Out Bolsonaro," and she was punished by that. So it's a kind of mess here. Everything is very, very complicated, you know. And I don't see a light in the end of the tunnel until we're gonna have a vaccine available for our people. That's what I say.
Ricardo, I want to thank you very much. Steve Munatonis has supplied the information from the 2007 Pan American Games. Chloe Sutton was the American winner.
Close Sutton.
And she beat Pollyanna by 0.8 of a second, which is probably the time in which the wave hit the paper air. So thank you for that, and we wish you all the success in the coming months, Ricardo. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the invitation, and thank you very much to be here contributing to the development of our sport that we love so much. Bye-bye, guys.